Welcome to Prism Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 58 of ASP.NET Grid View tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss about exporting grid view data to a PDF document. We'll be using this table TBL employee for this demo. We want to retrieve data from this table, display that within the grid view control, and then when I click this button export to PDF, we want to export this grid view data into a PDF document. So let's flip to Visual Studio. Let's now drag and drop a grid view control onto the web form. Let's auto format this. Let's choose BrownSugar scheme. Let's drag and drop a button control onto this web form. And then let's change the text on the button control to export to PDF. Let's double click on the button control to generate the event handler. Alright, the first thing to do is to write some ADO.NET code to retrieve data from this table and then display that within the grid view control. And to speed things up, I have this ADO.NET code already implemented. So let me copy and paste this ADO.NET code within the page load event. So what we are doing here, if it's not a post back, meaning if this is the initial GET request of the web form, use the configuration manager class, read the connection string from web.config file, and using that connection string, we are building a SQL connection object. And then look at our SQL command select star from TBL employee. We are building our SQL data adapter, and then we are creating a data set object here, and then we are filling the data set with the data after we execute that command, and then setting the data set as the data source for the grid view control and invoking data bind. So at this point, if we run the application, we should have this data displayed within the grid view control. Now when we click that button export to PDF, the data that's there within the grid view control needs to be exported to a PDF document. And to generate a PDF document, we're going to make use of an open source assembly, iTextSharp.dll. This assembly can be downloaded from the URL that you can see on the slide. Now this is the website. Click on this button download. Once you are on that URL, then it's going to download a zipped folder, extract the contents of that zip folder. It's gonna extract a few other zip folders. From there, extract the contents of this core zip folder. Within the core folder, you can find iTextSharp.dll assembly. Now you need to add a reference to this assembly in your project. So let's flip to Visual Studio. Let's add a reference to that assembly. So select your DLL, click OK. So we have a reference to that assembly now. Now within this assembly, there are three namespaces that we'll be making use of. Okay, and to speed things up, I have them already typed here. So let me copy and paste them here. So as you can see, these are the three namespaces that we need to use. Alright, so we have the button click event handler. So when we click that button, that's when we want to export this data to a grid view control. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a PDF table here. So there's a class called a PDF P table. So I'm going to make use of this class to create a table that we are going to use in the PDF document. So PDF P table, I'm going to call this PDF table is equal to new PDF P table. And look at this. This class has got several constructors. Now I'm going to use a constructor which is going to take in the number of columns. How many columns are there within our grid view control? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you can hard code the number of columns, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to retrieve the number of columns dynamically from the grid view control. And to do that, I'm going to use gridview1.columns.count. Okay, but then look at this. If you use this property, this property will always return 0 if you don't have any columns defined at design time. At the moment, if you look at our grid view control, we don't have any columns or fields of the grid view control defined at design time. Okay, so because of this, what's going to happen is this gridview1.columns.count will always return 0. So instead of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say gridview1.headerRow dot cells dot count. So I can use that because if you look at the grid view header row, we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4 cells there. So cells dot count property is going to give me the correct count there. So we first created the PDF table. The next thing that we have to do is obviously loop through each cell within this grid view control, and then create a cell, add that cell to this PDF table. Okay, so let me loop through each row first. So how do we loop through each row within the grid view control? I can use a for each loop. So for each, I'm going to say grid view row in the ID of our grid view control is grid view 1. So grid view 1 dot rows. So we are going to loop through each row within this grid view 1 control. Let's give that grid view row, an object reference variable. So we are looping through each row within the grid view control, and then within each row we have got a cell. So let's loop through each cell. So for each cell, it's called a table cell. So for each table cell, and let's call it table cell in grid view row dot cells. Okay, so we are looping through each row and each cell within the grid view control. And then what I'm going to do here is create, so here we have a PDF table that we are going to use in PDF document, and then in PDF table you have PDF cells. So I'm going to create a PDF cell, and then I'm going to populate each PDF cell with data from each cell from the grid view control. That's the reason why we are looping through each row and each cell of the grid view control. So it's called PDF P cell. So I'm going to create a PDF cell here. And then look at this. This PDF P cell class has got several constructors. Okay, I'm going to use a constructor which takes in a phrase object. Okay, so I have to pass a new phrase object to this. So I'm going to create a new phrase object. And then look at this, it expects a string to be passed in. So where am I going to get that string from? I can get that string from this table cell, because all we want to do is retrieve the text out of this table cell and then assign that text as the text for PDF cell. And how do we assign that as the text for PDF cell? By creating this new phrase object and passing it to the constructor of this PDF cell class. It's as simple as that. Alright, so I'm going to use this table cell, pass it to that object, and then close that. And all that is left out right now is to add this PDF cell to our table. So what's our table? PDF table dot add cell, and we are going to add PDF cell object to that. Okay, here we have a syntax error. That's because it expects a string, but we are passing in table cell object. We should actually be passing the text from the table cell. Okay, so that should solve that problem. So at this point, what we have done, we have looped through each row of this grid view control, each cell, retrieved the text, added that text to this PDF cell, which in turn is added to the PDF table. Okay, so all that is left right now is to create a document of, look at this PDF cell. This is actually coming from this iTextSharp.text.pdf namespace. That's the reason why we have, imported all these namespaces at the top. Alright, so I'm going to create a PDF document now. So again, I'm going to use this document class. Again, look at this document class. Where is this coming from? iTextSharp.text.document class. Okay, so I'm going to create this document, and this is, let's call it PDF document is equal to new document. And then there are again several overloaded constructors. I'm going to use a constructor where you can specify your page size. So I'm going to specify page size dot, it's going to be an A4 page size. Now look at this. If you want this PDF document to be rendered in a landscape format, you can use this A4_landscape, but it's not working as expected. There is another trick that you can use to render the PDF document in a landscape format. Probably we'll talk about that in our next video session. For now, let's choose A4 as the page size, and then you can specify the margin left, margin right, margin top and bottom. For everything, I'm going to specify 10F, F for float, because every parameter type here is of type float, so I'm going to copy that and do the same thing for the right, top, and bottom margins. Okay, so we have our PDF document created now. So I'm going to use another class called PDF Writer class, and then I'm going to get an instance of this document. So get instance, I'm going to invoke this method and then pass the PDF document, and then the next parameter is the response stream. So I'm going to say response object has got this output stream, so which we are going to pass as a parameter to this method. And then all that is left out now is open your PDF document, and then to that PDF document add this PDF table that we have created. So copy that and then add the PDF table, and then close your PDF document. So what we have done, we have opened the PDF document, added the table, and we are going to close that. Alright, now we need to export that, and we want to open that immediately when somebody clicks that button. So I'm going to use the response object to do that, because we want to send it back to the client. So response dot we need to specify the content type, and we need to specify our PDF file name as well using content disposition response header. We discussed about content type and response headers in the previous session when we discussed about exporting grid view data to a Word document and to an Excel document. So here we're going to specify the content type as application/PDF, and to the response object we are going to append an header. So append header, and we are going to use a header called content hyphen disposition. That's the response header which can be used to specify a name for your file. So I'm going to say content hyphen disposition, and then here we need to specify it as an attachment, semicolon, and then we can specify the file name, and let's specify the file name as employees.pdf. Okay, so we specified the content type, we added a header. So what's the next thing? The next thing is we need to write the PDF document using the write method of the response object. So response.write, and then pass the PDF document to that. Okay, flush the response completely, and then end the response. Okay, so that's all there to it. Now let's go ahead and run this, see if we are able to export the PDF data. Okay, so when the grid view renders, it has to display the employee data, and then when we click that button, export to PDF, we should be able to export to PDF. Let me click that, and then look at this. I get this warning: this type of file can harm your computer. Do you want to keep this file employee.pdf anyway? This is an issue with Google Chrome. It's a known issue. Just click on keep, and then you'll have your PDF employees.pdf. Let me click on that. Look at that, I get all the employees, but there are two problems with this PDF document. Number one, it doesn't have the header, and number two, this table doesn't have the formatting that I have in my grid view control. So I would like to have the header and the formatting, so I want to retain both of them. Okay, first let's get the header, and that's simple. So here, if you look at what you're doing, we're actually looping through each grid view data row, but we are not looping through the header row. So let's do that as well. So let me actually copy this piece of code, and then on the top, so I'm going to loop through each cell of the grid view header. So I'm going to say, actually we can get rid of this for each loop. We only need the internal for each loop. Press Ctrl K and D to format it properly. So for each table cell in gridview1 dot header row dot cells. So we are going to loop through each cell in the grid view header row, and let's call this header cell. Okay, so we are going to retrieve the header cell text, and then again we are creating a PDF cell here, which we are adding it to the PDF table. Okay, let's build this to make sure it compiles, and then let's run this to make sure we get the header as well along with the rest of the data. So export to PDF, click on keep. Again, this error is only on Google Chrome. If you are using Internet Explorer, it works fine. So click keep, open the PDF. Look at that, I get employee ID, name, gender, city. Okay, now let's fix the formatting part. So how to fix the formatting part? Alright, so when I add the header, it's not just the header. I also want to keep the formatting there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a font object here. So for each cell I have to do that. So I'm going to create a font object. Again, this font is present in iTextSharp text namespace from the assembly that we have downloaded. So font is equal to new font, and then I'm going to use a constructor which doesn't take any parameter, and then all I'm going to specify here is the font color. And to do that, I can use the color property of the font object, and then look at what it expects. It expects a base color. Okay, so I'm going to create a new base color object, and then look at this. It takes several, there are several constructors again, but I'm going to use the constructor which is going to take system.drawing.color enumeration. So I'm going to specify, instead of hard coding the color, we want to retrieve that from the grid view control itself. So how do I get the grid view font color? So basically we want this text color, and to do that you can simply say gridview1 dot header row dot font, actually header row style dot color dot faux color. So we can use that property there. That's it. So we have specified the font object and the color. Next we need to pass somehow this font object. We have to associate that with this PDF cell, and to do that, this PDF cell class has got several overloaded constructors. So I'm going to use a constructor which takes in a font object as well. Actually, it is not PDF cell, it's the phrase object. So if you look at the phrase object, it takes in one of the overloaded constructors. It takes in a font object, so I'm going to pass this font object there. Okay, so that should fix the the font of the text, but then I want the background color as well. So how am I going to get the background color? Now we set the background color to the cell, to the PDF cell. Okay, so to do that, for this PDF cell, I'm going to set the background color. So there is a property called background color. Again, this uses a base color object. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it right there. And how do I specify the background color? Header style has got this back color property. Okay, so let's do the same thing for each data row as well. So here, instead of header style, we are going to specify row style. And let's copy this line and then specify the background color here. So again, instead of saying header style, it's going to be row style. Okay, so let's run this and see if it works as expected. Okay, still loading. Let's click on export to PDF, keep the document, open the file, and look at this. I get the format as expected. So let's say we want to zoom into 100%. Look at that. Now it's getting displayed in a portrait format. In our next video, we'll see how to change the format to a landscape, and then also we will see how to actually, instead of downloading this, let's say I want to generate a PDF document and store it on a folder on the server. We'll discuss about that in our next video session. All right. On this slide, you can find resources for ASP.NET, C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.